Hello, my name's Chris Jones. Welcome to our first session. Now, our first session, we will be discussing developing the early years childcare and young people's workforce sector. And in this expert session, our panel will explore childcare as a career path, the different childcare settings, and of course, suggest steps to help your childcare business thrive. So our first speaker is Jane Roach, and Jane will introduce herself and her background in childcare services, and then we'll talk through what it takes to create and run a successful and sustainable business in the childcare sector. So, Jane, over to you.
So how did I get involved in childcare? Probably goes back to being inspired, and that would be by my mum, who was also a care worker. She was a nurse going back in the 60s when I was born, and at that point a working single mum has been widowed. So I became, obviously as I grew up, well aware of those difficulties they were as anybody working and then obviously having children needed the childcare sector to support them. So my career started over 40 years ago now, and this was when I decided at school, wasn't very academic, and took a Sitting Gills course in community care. And from that, I got the bug, really. I went on then to do my nursery nursing at what was an NNEB in college. And from that then, created a career, and my career path continued then for another good 10 years, gaining knowledge and experience throughout different sectors within the childcare sector. Made the big decision then as a wife and with two young children to make the move down to Wales with my husband as well, and set up a childcare nursery. And we did that and continued to run businesses in relation to that for again another 20 odd years of childcare working. And throughout that period I've used the childcare sector to develop my career. I went on to do a HND in nursery management, and then after that then also now I'm studying a master's as well. So the career paths and the career opportunities were there for me to be able to take. But if you'd have asked me that as a 15-year-old taking my Sitting Gills, I would never have thought that this is where I would be today. So it just goes to show that with the right opportunities available and that inspiration that was my mum, that you can have a fabulous career path within the childcare sector. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I wanted to share that with everybody today as well. we've just seen the video clip of Create Play, and that is a really good example of what childcare we have available here in Wales, and there are going to be lots of variations on that. Far too many for me just to now summarise, so I think probably the best way to answer that will be to stay with us for the day today as we go through the process of the childcare sector, and you'll get a really good taste of what childcare means for us here in Wales. A successful business means a sustainable childcare setting and service. Today, we aim to look at a variety of settings and services, the different skills and training to develop or support the workforce, what is available to address the challenges in the childcare sector in order to achieve a sustainable and successful childcare service. Well, we need several tools to do that. A business plan is the first one, I would say, which tells us what the business is aiming to provide and achieve. And it links then to what the finances, the ethos, the aims and the service provided, as well as what the community is going to need. Following on from that, a management plan, which informs of us how we can achieve and manage the business plan through structure and roles and responsibilities, etc. For the Care Inspectorate Wales, there also needs to be, in relation to the service registration, documents, and part of that would be an operational plan under the national minimum standards. And importantly linked to that would then be time management. Obviously, the other big thing that we're going to be talking about today and need are the people or the workforce that are providing the childcare services, and they will have a variety of skills and knowledge that supports that business plan and those management plans that are in place. This can be from an individual as a childminder or to a day nursery with several roles and positions to oversee the day-to-day running of the service. All of these elements need to be in place to have a foundation for a sustainable business. The support of the umbrella organisations and Business Wales and the statutory bodies within the childcare services and sector can ensure that the plans and the people are prepared with the tools to succeed. I want to really go on and focus on the importance of the business and the management plan. And when we're looking at our financial element of part of these plans, the pricing structure is key. You should ask the question, who is responsible for this? Have they got the skills required to analyse what is needed and also for it to be implemented? And when is the pricing structure reviewed and how often? This links importantly to the National Minimum Standard 14 under the organisation and under National Minimum Standard 17 under the Financial Operational Plan. So the umbrella organisations such as PACey for the childminders, Clwbiau Plant Cymru for the out of school childcare, Mudiad for the playgroups, the National Day Nursery Association or NDNA for the day nurseries, Early Years Wales and Culham all have templates and documentation to support the sector to develop the systems that they need. These umbrella organisations can offer a variety of support dependent upon the region and the county that the childcare services is based within Wales. With the support of them and Business Wales, the childcare services can ensure they're developing and sustaining their finances alongside their business and management plans. Business Wales has got experienced advisors and mentors to support the financial planning, the marketing, the staffing and the training, development in policies and procedures. And particularly at this moment, the hot topics that we're looking at are the equality in the workplace, particularly when recruiting staff, and the green growth pledges that are embedding then this into the ethos and the policies and procedures in the childcare businesses. The opportunity to have tailored and follow-up support will be offered and discussed at the end of the sessions today. Lisa and Becca, the officers from Wrexham County Council, are going to tell us more about the statutory roles across the childcare sector in Wales. And Business Wales are aware that the type of settings have the different spaces and the ratios and qualifications as required by the Care Inspectorate Wales, and all have an impact on the overheads to be covered and the fees and the pricings that then has to be in place in order to make sure that the business is sustainable. The link to the financial structure through those business plans and those management plans is essential. The cost of the staff wages, training and qualifications, and the minimum numbers that you have to have in place to look after ensure sustainability can be there in place to support those businesses. As I mentioned at the start of this session, those that are working in the childcare sector, actually the roles that are there are caring roles, but one that we also have to promote the need to have qualifications, quality and professionalism. The professional recognition also needs to be linked to it and what their staff needs are. Any business ethos and anything that is to do with a unique selling point that they can then be put in place to encourage and encompass this as part of the childcare service. I'm going to give some tips now to what I think need to be there in order to have that sustainable business. I would say be professional by having those business plans and management plans in place that are working documents. Make sure then that you use that to support the availability of things that are there for you, to develop and review your services regularly. That would be a good thing to do, I think. Working collaboratively with the families and community as well, using those umbrella organisations and the development teams that are there. It should mean that you're familiar with things like the childcare sufficiency assessment as well, and the local services such as the Family Information Service is always good to have. They can help you with your marketing. You can register with them and then get your services on their websites as well. And you know what's in your region, you know what's in your area as well. And they can then help you with the childcare sufficiency assessment, look where the gaps are and the needs are. And that's always good to know because you might be able to fill those gaps. Another tip would be maybe to make sure you're flexible as well and look outside of the boxes, as they say. Make sure that what you may work one year might not actually suit what's going to be needed this coming year. As we've already seen over the last few years, that we know that we have to adapt and adapt quite quickly. So maybe look at the staff teams and the skills that are there as well and adjust them accordingly. Make sure you access that support that's available to you. Business Wales advisors are there. They can help you support you develop your management and your business plans, the marketing plans, the training and the skills opportunity. Use what we've got there out in the community and in your region. What I would say is look at those tips that we've just looked at, go over those again, choose those to make sure that you are moving forward. From today, we're going to be developing a toolkit that's going to be available for the childcare sector, and therefore they have an opportunity to move forward and develop their professionalism and the childcare staff. And that'll help then to continue to support the economy and the infrastructure within Wales. We've seen through the last few years that the childcare has been working hand in hand with organisations such as the Health Service in order for the health workers to be able to go into work and then support the economy, but also make sure that moving forward, I would say that we include then working in partnership with other organisations, looking at what the training opportunities are. And again, through those toolkits that we're putting together with the partner organisations, you'll be able to look at that and move forward yourselves. Moving forward now, we've got some examples today of services in childcare settings that are already set up, and one of those is going to be Elemental Adventure, who are an incorporation company that have set up with support that has then got directors and are part of the a duty of company directors, and there are some workshops that we're going to be able to offer in order for any other services that want to have a look at how they can develop their business into becoming an incorporate company and the benefits of those and the disadvantages of those as well. But you will see then a different way of working. Elementary Adventures supply the community with services in the outdoors and a childcare service within the outdoor environment, and are registered with Forest Schools as well. So they're a really good example of maybe working in a slightly different way to maybe how people have thought of working and running a business. The other service that we're going to also be looking at today is Kiddies Corner, a day nursery that has managed to develop from one day nursery and has now developed into having 4 or 5 services within their community up in Llandudno. So again, examples of those and positive ways of moving forward and developing businesses are going to be part of what we are talking about later on in our sessions today.
Great, thank you Jane for that, a really comprehensive guide for our audience. Now next we are going to hear from Graham Dow from Elemental Adventures. Graham is going to talk about what is meant by a community interest company, what the benefits of it are, and tell us all about the activities and services that can be offered.
Hi, I'm Graham. I'm part of the Elemental Adventures team, and this is our project at Galwedigaeth Woods. So we are a community interest company. So if we had to have one word to define us, it would probably be community. On our website, the strapline is connect, create, and celebrate. And they were 3 words, 3 principles that were very important in our vision for what we do here. We run activities including a drop-off forest school session where the kids are here all day without parents or carers. We run family forest school sessions, which is when they come for half a day with parents and carers. We also run regular wellbeing in the woods sessions for anyone of any age or ability. That's a free session, which is subsidised by the National Lottery Community Fund. We first came across community interest companies when friends of ours in the Forest of Dean set up the Rewild project. Choosing to be a community interest company has brought several benefits to us. One benefit is the public profile of our company. Because it is called a community interest company, that gives anyone and everyone a rough idea of where we're coming from. Another really important benefit to our company is funding eligibility. As a community interest company, we're eligible for quite a few pots of funding. Not as many as if we were a charity, but it can still really help with getting projects off the ground. With the funding for a community interest company, we can't rely on it for long periods of time. So really what the pots of funding do is help us to get new things started and test their viability. Our vision was to create an open and inclusive project which could live on even if the original directors weren't a part of it. So being a CIC helps with that. An important legal financial aspect of being a CIC is the asset lock. An asset lock means that any assets that the company has can't be taken away by individual members of the company. So if anyone or any other bodies invest in the project, they can be confident that that investment will stay in the community for perpetuity. We wanted this project to be resilient. We wanted this project to grow slowly but grow strong. So having a company structure that has an asset lock and is open to other people getting involved means that over time it gradually gets stronger and stronger and more healthy and resilient. So we've got quite a few regular members of staff, and we've also got a whole community of volunteers who come along and help on the woodland management and site management. Volunteering is a really important element of the project. We've had quite a few people come and volunteer with us, both just as one-off sort of days and also as regular volunteers. We have some people who come along and volunteer for their mental health. We have other people who come and volunteer as a placement for their forest schools training. And we have people who volunteer on our regular family sessions. Volunteering is really helpful for us because it means we get assistance on our project. And it's also a really important part of our vision because we want people to be able to come and learn and train and also engage in activities which is good for their well-being. There's a few different benefits to coming and volunteering with a project such as this. We engage a lot of different soft and hard skills on this project. So whether you want to build on your practical skills or your people skills, or if you want to engage with nature, learn about woodland management, there's a wealth of opportunities on a project like this. This sort of experience can lead to or complement existing training, and it can then lead on to qualifications and employment.
Thank you, Graham. Of course, Elemental Adventures is a good example of a setting delivering against priorities outlined in the Welsh Government Play Strategy. Following on, I'm delighted to introduce Becky Roberts and Lisa Atherton. Becky and Lisa are based in Wrexham, up in North Wales, and are going to talk about how to build sustainability and structure in the childcare sector and their own roles in doing this. First of all, would you like to let our audience know who you are, maybe, and what your roles are in the childcare sector?
So, my name's Becky Roberts. I'm the Assistant Team Manager for Childcare for the Prevention and Service Development team within Wrexham. So I work very closely alongside Lisa in the Family Information Service. Now, our team supports the childcare sector within Wrexham with all elements of childcare, business support related, so we could be looking at sustainability, including supporting with access to grant funding. It could be in relation to inclusion, so supporting children with disabilities and additional learning needs to access childcare provision, and also supporting childcare providers with strategies to implement to support those children. It could be quality, so it could be access to grant funding to support with quality. It could be supporting childcare settings with anything in relation to Care Inspectorate Wales and their inspection process. So it's quite a wide range of things that we support with.
Thanks, Becky. Well, moving on to the questions now then, can you let us know what exactly is a CSA?
The CSA stands for the Childcare Sufficiency Assessment, which is a legal duty that all local authorities need to undertake within Wales every 5 years. It's under the Childcare Act 2006, under section 22 of that Act, local authorities need to ensure, as far as reasonably practicable, that they can provide sufficient childcare to meet the needs of working parents or parents that are undertaking training or education that will get them into work. So under section 26 of the Childcare Act, local authorities need to complete the assessments so that they can review the state of childcare within their area. So it'd be looking to identify and pinpoint areas where there may be a lack of childcare. It could be looking at specific childcare markets. So for example, it could be looking at whether there is enough childcare available within nursery provisions, within school-based provisions, whether we need to increase the number of childminders within that area. So it's looking at the gaps within provision, and then from that we would formulate an action plan which we would review annually, and we would utilise that to address those gaps and try and bring in sufficient childcare within that area.
So where and how would you go about getting a CSA?
So the Childcare Sufficiency Assessment should be on all local authorities' websites. I will point out that we are currently undertaking our Childcare Sufficiency Assessment at the moment. So the ones that are available currently are the ones from the previous round of assessments. So they are 5 years old now. So the data in those is outdated, but the new ones will be available within the next 12-month period. They will also be housed on the Family Information Services websites as well, so they are available through there to view.
Okay, so can we talk a bit now maybe about the Care Inspectorate Wales? Who are they and what is their role?
So Care Inspectorate Wales, or CIW, is the regulatory body that all childcare providers who operate for more than 2 hours outside of the child's home need to be registered with.
And how does CIW work with the Family Information Service?
CIW support FIS by sharing details on childcare providers on a regular basis. Those details include childcare providers that are registered and open and operational, those that may have suspended their services, and those that may have closed and deregistered or are no longer providing a registered service, so they may have moved to providing care for children in the under 2 hour bracket. Another area where CIW do support us with is by sharing the details from the childcare provider's self-assessment service statement, or SAS, and we utilise that information that they share with us to help us to complete our gap analysis for the CSA, and we use those details to help to identify which areas have got a high amount of childcare and are able to fulfil childcare needs, and those areas where we need to maybe address concerns.
Thanks for all this, Becky. Really useful information, and I'm sure our audience will agree. Let's finish, if you like, with one final question. Can you tell us more about AWARE?
AWARE is made up of representatives from EYDCPs. EYDCP meets on a local level to discuss priority areas within the local authority. And the AWARE group is the representatives from EYDCP who look at those priority areas on a national level and work collaboratively to try and address those priority areas.
Diolch, Becky. Thank you so much for your time. Now we turn to Lisa. Lisa, over to you to tell us maybe, first of all, a little bit about yourself.
I'm Lisa Atherton. I'm Assistant Team Manager of Wrexham Family Information Service in the Prevention and Service Development team in Wrexham Council. I manage the Family Information Service. I'm also Chair of the FIS network in Wales and work closely with Welsh Government in ensuring that family information services are high on the agenda.
So what's the role of the Family Information Service?
The Family Information Service is an information, advice and guidance service for families in Wales, supporting families with children from birth up to the child's 20th birthday, including during pregnancy. And we provide them with information on a wide range of issues, from childcare to information on help with childcare costs, sources of local support that's available to support their family, education, parenting, mental wellbeing, advocacy and much, much more. We are a statutory requirement that local authorities have to provide. So under the Section 27 of the Childcare Act, they must provide this service to families. So in terms of childcare and how we support the childcare market, we obviously provide that information to parents to help them make the decision about what's available to them. And to do that, we maintain a database of childcare settings that's available locally, which is completely free for settings to put their information onto, and will always be free for that to happen. And with just that link between parents and childcare settings.
I think it's agreed that the way forward is through collaboration. So how do you see this as part of FIS's role?
We all have to work in collaboration to support the childcare market. We can't work in isolation to ensure that we've got a stable market. So it's really, really important that locally and nationally and regionally that we are coming together to pool resources, to pool knowledge and expertise for the best interests of the market. So locally that might be with other teams within the local authority area, it might be with external partners, and then regionally it would be, and nationally it would be with other local authority areas, Welsh Government, Cullen partners, CIW, Social Care Wales, play organisations, but also then support organisations like Busnes Wales, organisations that support parents back into work and training like Communities for Work and PACE, higher and further education colleges. We've all got that part to play, and only by coming together that we can create that sustainable market that's in the best interests of settings, families and children.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Becky. Now that brings us to the end of the first session. We hope you found it useful and can join us for the second session later on. So for now, goodbye. Okay, so can we talk a bit now maybe about the Care Inspectorate Wales? Who are they and what is their role?
So Care Inspectorate Wales, or CIW, is the regulatory body that all childcare providers who operate for more than 2 hours outside of the child's home need to be registered with.
And how does CIW work with the Family Information Service?
CIW support FIS by sharing details on childcare providers on a regular basis. Those details include childcare providers that are registered and open and operational, those that may have suspended their services, and those that may have closed and deregistered or are no longer providing a registered service, so they may have moved to providing care for children in the under 2 hour bracket. Another area where CIW do support us with is by sharing the details from the childcare provider's self-assessment service statement, or SAS, and we utilise that information that they share with us to help us to complete our gap analysis for the CSA, and we use those details to help to identify which areas have got a high amount of childcare and are able to fulfil childcare needs, and those areas where we need to maybe address concerns.
Thanks for all this, Becky. Really useful information, and I'm sure our audience will agree. Let's finish, if you like, with one final question. Can you tell us more about AWARE?
AWARE is made up of representatives from EYDCPs. EYDCP meets on a local level to discuss priority areas within the local authority. And the AWARE group is the representatives from EYDCP who look at those priority areas on a national level and work collaboratively to try and address those priority areas.
Diolch, Becky. Thank you so much for your time. Now we turn to Lisa. Lisa, over to you to tell us maybe, first of all, a little bit about yourself.
I'm Lisa Atherton. I'm Assistant Team Manager of Wrexham Family Information Service in the Prevention and Service Development team in Wrexham Council. I manage the Family Information Service. I'm also Chair of the FIS network in Wales and work closely with Welsh Government in ensuring that family information services are high on the agenda. So
what's the role of the Family Information Service?
The Family Information Service is an information, advice and guidance service for families in Wales, supporting families with children from birth up to the child's 20th birthday, including during pregnancy. And we provide them with information on a wide range of issues, from childcare to information on help with childcare costs, sources of local support that's available to support their family, education, parenting, mental wellbeing, advocacy and much, much more. We are a statutory requirement that local authorities have to provide. So under the Section 27 of the Childcare Act, they must provide this service to families. So in terms of childcare and how we support the childcare market, we obviously provide that information to parents to help them make the decision about what's available to them. And to do that, we maintain a database of childcare settings that's available locally, which is completely free for settings to put their information onto and will always be free for that to happen. And with just that link between parents and childcare settings.
I think it's agreed that the way forward is through collaboration. So how do you see this as part of FIS's role?
We all have to work in collaboration to support the childcare market. We can't work in isolation to ensure that we've got a stable market. So it's really, really important that locally and nationally and regionally that we are coming together to pool resources, to pool knowledge and expertise for the best interests of the market. So locally that might be with other teams within the local authority area, it might be with external partners, and then regionally it would be, and nationally it would be with other local authority areas, Welsh Government, Cullen partners, CIW, Social Care Wales, play organisations, but also then support organisations like Busnes Wales, organisations that support parents back into work and training like Communities for Work and PACE, higher and further education colleges. We've all got that part to play, and only by coming together that we can create that sustainable market that's in the best interests of settings, families and children.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Becky. Now, that brings us to the end of the first session. We hope you found it useful and can join us for the second session later on. So, for now, goodbye.